All right, so we are doing the last session on adding up decimals. So this is really just more of a review for everything. But let's get started here with our warm up. And we're just going to, again, go over a lot of the techniques we've already done. So just use any strategy to find the sum. So there were several we went over. I'd really like to stick with the traditional one, or the one that you'll probably just end up using on your own, where we write down our numbers. We have 12 and 74 hundredths. And then I put my decimal point here, and then I've got 3 and 6/10, just like that. Again, if you'd like, you can put a 0 here to kind of even things out, and then you just add everything up after bringing down your decimal. So we've got 4 hundredths, we've got 13 tenths, which means we keep the 3 and bring in a 1 over to the ones column. 3, 4, 5, 6, and bring down our 1, so that gives us 16 and 34 hundredths. So again, just a reminder, regrouping regrouping rules stay the same, just like with regular adding. So if you've got a double-digit amount in a place value, even if it's in decimals, you need to like move it over and regroup. All right, so our lesson starts on page 199. We'll skip over this example and go straight to 1. So a US quarter has a mass of 5 and 67 hundredths grams. A penny has a mass of 2 and 5/10 grams. What's the total mass of the two coins? So this is a very similar setup to like our warm-up. We've got a number with hundredths and we've got a number with tenths. And we just have to be careful with lining up our place values. And 2 and 5/10. I'm going to add a 0 here, just kind of stay consistent. Let's add up our hundredths. We have 7. Our tenths give us 11, so we bring down the 1, carry over the 1, and then 7, 8. So you have 8 and 17 hundredths grams. And that's the total mass for those two coins. Go ahead and turn the page. We won't do all these examples, but we'll do most of them. So this one, we're adding up 3 different amounts. So what we're going to do for number 2 here is we're going to split this up into 2 halves. Let's add up. Now, $10 is probably going to be really easy to add to our last amount. So we're going to save that for over here on the right. So let's add up the price of the jeans, which is $24.99. And the shirt is $5.25. Now you'll notice that money only goes up to the hundreds in the hundreds, because if you have 100 coins or 100 cents, that's going to equal $1. And it's the same deal with this. So again, this is going to stay with you the rest of your lives as far as adding up decimals or subtracting if you're taking away from amount of money. All right, let's add up our tenths. 9 plus 5 is 14. Our tenths is 11 plus 1 more is 12. Our ones place is 9 and 10. And then we've got 2 plus 3, so that's $30.24. But we have to add $30.24 plus $10. And for this one, we could probably do this in our head. So $30 plus $10 is $40.24 is the final amount that he'll have to pay for that. Okay. Let's go on to 3. It asks for this one, what is the total amount for these 3 amounts? So again, split this up into 2 parts. You can do it that way. I'm gonna down here, this bottom part, show you one reason why it's probably better to do them in small chunks instead of doing them in one. But let's start with this. Let's go with our smaller amounts here. $1.25 plus 16. All right, so I've got 11, 2, 3, 4, 41. So we got 1.41 or 1 41 hundredths. Over here, we've got 11 and 54 hundredths plus 1 and 41 hundredths. So you got 5, 9, 2. And that gives us 12.95, and that's C. Now, this is kind of why I didn't line up all three, because that's going to help us understand why this student got this uh, problem wrong. So Chloe did this when she chose D. She lined up all her numbers just like this. And you can do that. You can stack up 3, 5, 10, 100 all at once and add them all in one shot. But sometimes you can have errors like what we're going to demonstrate here. So I'm going to show you what Chloe did. So she did 5 plus 9 plus 6 gave her 15. And then she did 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 1 is 8. Decimal, she did this. Then she got 12.85. Now some of you are probably going, well, what about over here? What she should have done is she forgot to carry her 1, which would have changed this to 12.95. So that's how she made the error. Again, looking at our mistakes in math is a really good way of learning what our thought was when we did that, and helps us try to not do that the next time that we do a similar problem. So it's always good to go back and look over your mistakes. All right, let's look at number 4. Randy rides his bike 1 in 2,300 miles to school. After school, he rides 9/10 of a mile to the library and another 1 in 500 miles to the park. How many miles does Randy ride his bike in all? So let's try adding all of these up at once. In any order works, because with addition and multiplication, order does not matter. And we've got this, and just because I want to stay consistent, let me put a 0 in the hundreds place there so everything looks even. All right, first thing I do is bring down my decimal, and then I'm going to add up my hundreds. So 5 plus 3 is 8, and then 9 plus 2 is 11, and then it got 3, and our final answer should be 3 and 1800 miles. There we go. So again, I could have broken that up into chunks, but I thought with the size of the numbers, I could just do everything at once. Let's look at number 5. Raphael runs the first half of the race in 23 and 800 seconds, and the second half of the race in 27 and 9200 seconds. What's Raphael's total time for the race? So we want to add up both halves, and 27, 92, and 23.08. Both of these numbers extend out into the hundreds place, so I don't really have to worry too much about lining them up. Bring down my decimal. 8 plus 2 is 10. 9 plus 1 is 10. It's 10. That gives me 11. And that gives me 51. 51 seconds. Notice for the answer over here, C, they didn't put these, but you could have, and it would not have been incorrect because it's the same. But generally, if it's 0, they kind of just leave it. They leave that part off. All right, go ahead and cross off 6. And the last problem we'll do today will be 7. That means on page 202, you can cross off 8 and 9. And for 7, it wants us to find the sum of these 3 numbers. Again, let's just line them all up. Let's try all 3 at once. We add a 0 here. And we got this. And let's see what we end up with. 9 plus 2 is 11. 10, it gives me another 11. 2, 3, 4. And it gives me 4 and 11 hundredths. So I know one a little fast. If you're watching on the video, you can always rewind. Just scale it back there and get what you need. But cross off those last 2 problems. And what we have today is, all right, so we got a worksheet. It's tenths, hundredths, and thousandths, so it's got everything now. And that's as far as we're going to go with that. So you complete all those problems for that and turn that in. If you'd like and would like a house point, I just would ask you to do reflex math and to get a green light. I've kind of run out of IXL assignments that do adding decimals. So we'll just use reflex today as a way to get a house point for your house.